I've waited quite a few months to test this one out here, but hey, we've all waited 25 years for this vehicle to make a real comeback. My name is Omar, and this is the 2021 Ford Bronco. So this here is the real Bronco, the true truck-based off-roading one, not the tiny Bronco Sport that's based on the Ford Escape. By the way, if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. I drop a new car review every week, so you don't want to miss out. But yeah, the Jeep Wrangler has gone unchallenged for far too long. There was nothing really out there that offered you strong off-road capability at a somewhat affordable price tag until now. The new Bronco is really the first true Jeep Wrangler competitor, and it's taken the automotive industry by storm. There is so much hype around the new Bronco. Everyone has been talking about it ever since it made its debut, which leads me to believe that even people that don't do any kind of off-roading, like me, are interested in buying one. That said, how is the new Ford Bronco on-road as a daily driver? Well, if you want a comfortable on-road daily driver, the Bronco that you want to go for is the base trim, the Big Bend, or the Outer Banks. Those will offer you tech, comfort, and convenience. However, I can't speak to how those drive because I haven't driven any of those. The one I'm driving here is the Black Diamond with the Sasquatch Package. The Black Diamond is actually your first entry into the heavy-duty off-road lifestyle that the Bronco has to offer. And the Sasquatch Package makes it an even tougher off-road capable SUV with these giant 35-inch mud terrain tires. Think of it as a Wrangler Rubicon. Ford has done something very interesting. No matter which Bronco you go for, you can add on the Sasquatch Package and be ready to do some top-level off-roading. Unlike the Wrangler, where you really have to step up to the Rubicon, and even though I haven't tested the Big Bend or the Outer Banks, the more on-road friendly ones, I'm pretty sure they're outstanding when it comes to daily drivability. Why? Because the Black Diamond Sasquatch that I'm driving here is pretty nice to drive on road, unlike the Wrangler, which starts shaking and requires a lot of steering input, especially if you're going above 60 miles an hour. The Bronco, on the other hand, just cruises along. I'm going about 60 miles an hour right now. I've hit 85 in this thing, and I have to say, this thing is 10 times more stable and more composed than the Wrangler Rubicon. Heck, this is even more stable than the Wrangler Sahara. The Bronco's steering precision is leaps and bounds better than that of the Wrangler, even on these giant 35-inch mud terrain tires. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I'm not a die-hard off-roading enthusiast, so I'm not going to dive deep into the off-road capabilities of the Bronco, but from the videos I've seen on YouTube and the reviews that I've read, this thing is pretty much on par with the Wrangler. I've also read some other reviews where it says the Wrangler is still a better off-roading SUV, and that's understandable because the Wrangler has been around for years and years. But as an on-road tough SUV, the Bronco has a clear advantage. So do I recommend buying the Bronco over the Wrangler? Well, before I answer that, let me give you a quick tour of the new Bronco. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. All right, let's do this. All right, let's kick off this tour by taking a look at some of the cool and interesting things that you should know about the new Ford Bronco. All right, so to fully take on the Jeep Wrangler full on, Ford has made sure that you can have a complete open air experience in the new Bronco. My test model here is the hardtop, and it's pretty simple to remove. You just pull these latches, each left and right side have 3, and then you just pull this latch and carry it off. It's pretty easy. Now the back roof also comes off. You just unscrew some screws and bolts and disconnect some wires. I'm by myself, so I'm not going to risk messing anything up here since this is a 2-person job. And of course, the doors come off as well, and they are frameless doors. And again, I'm not going to do that either, but it is pretty simple. You just disconnect some wires here that are connected to your power windows, remove a few screws, and then you just lift by putting your hand right here where it says lift. But yeah, the new Bronco looks really awesome with the roof and the doors removed. Kind of better than the Jeep Wrangler. Interesting thing here is that the side view mirrors aren't connected to the doors. Reason being, if you remove the doors, you can still keep your side view mirrors. Unlike the Jeep Wrangler, where you take off the doors, your mirrors will go along with them. And since you can take the doors off, all your window controls and your side view mirror controls are placed right here next to the armrest. All right, next up, let's talk tech really quick. Starting off with this gauge cluster, it's half analog, half digital. It's very, very informative and packed with some off-roading pages for when you need them. But the coolest thing here is that as you circle through your GOAT modes or your go over any terrain modes, you'll see some really, really cool animations. I really like when automakers spend time and effort in making something as simple as changing drive modes a full-on experience. Now let's talk infotainment. Mostly all Broncos come standard with an 8-inch touchscreen display that houses the Sync 4 infotainment system. You do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard. And if you want, you can upgrade to that massive 12-inch touchscreen display as a part of the High package, which I believe is only available on the Outer Banks and above it will cost you $1,295. But yeah, overall, it's pretty easy to use, very quick, free of glitches, but I would definitely upgrade to the 12 inches because it looks much cooler. Now you obviously have some Easter eggs all over the new Bronco, so let's check them out. One of my personal favorite ones is right here under the front fenders. In the fender liner, you'll see the words, "Lift me, baby," because Ford knows that off-roaders will want to go taller and higher. Pop open the fuel door, you'll see 3 generations of the Bronco right here. Each model with the Sasquatch package actually has a tiny Sasquatch on the model badge. You've got a hidden Bronco right here in the headlamps. In the cargo area, you'll see some tie-down loops, and each one of them has a small lasso printed on them. That's really cool. And right in the middle, you'll see a giant Bronco logo. Also in the cargo area, you'll see a Bronco between the 2 cargo lights. Up in the front, you have this badge right here, designed and engineered in Dearborn, Michigan, which actually matches the front design of the Bronco. Here on the roll bar, you'll see some mountains and some coordinates that point to Bronco Overlook in Johnson Valley, California. Almost all of the nuts and bolts have Bronco printed on them. And then, like on the Wrangler, you'll see a Ford Bronco silhouette on the air recirculation button right here. You'll also see it on the Futures button on the screen, right here on the GOAT modes, and the hood release latch with the hood actually open. But my favorite one is right here on the traction button with the spare tire and everything. That's really cool. Also, the start-stop button is in a shape identical to that of the headlights. All right, now let's get into the pricing details for the new Bronco. The base 2-door model starts at $29,300, and then you can go all the way up to the Bronco Wildtrak 4-door for $49,475. My test model here is the 2-door Black Diamond, and that starts at $36,450. But after a few options, you're looking at a final price tag of $47,990, which is pretty up there considering how basic it is inside this cabin. Now, since the Bronco is an off-roading focused SUV, each trim offers you different levels of off-roading capability. The Black Diamond is where you want to start if you're a true off-roading enthusiast that likes some serious adventures in your life. The base Bronco and the Big Bend Bronco are more for your everyday daily driving. And then the Badlands and the Wildtrak trims are where you want to be if you're into the extreme off-roading lifestyle. Now, depending on the trim you get, there's not much standard that you get with the Bronco. You do get that 8-inch touchscreen display that houses a Sync 4 infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and again, you can upgrade that to 12 inches. Other than that, you just have a digital instrument display, GOAT modes, which range from 5 to 8 depending on the model you get. Mine has 7. So yeah, it is pretty basic. So if you're expecting things like leather trim seats that are heated or a heated steering wheel, you're going to have to step up a few trims and add on some packages. That said, you have a total of 4 packages to pick from, including mid, high, luxe, and the off-road focused Sasquatch package. Sasquatch is optional on every trim of the Bronco except the first edition and the Wildtrak. It'll cost you a total of $4,200, but it will give you 17-inch black high-gloss wheels that are wrapped in these massive 35-inch mud terrain tires. It'll give you a 4.7 final drive ratio with an electronic locking front and rear axle. And it will give you higher ground clearance, wider fender flares, Bilstein shock absorbers, and much more. As for power, my test model here is powered by a 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6, pumping out 330 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque, and that's made it to a 10-speed automatic transmission. The base engine is a 2.3-liter 4-cylinder EcoBoost, and it still makes a pretty impressive 300 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. Also, the 4-cylinder is the only engine option where you can get a 7-speed manual transmission. 0 to 60 for the 2.7-liter EcoBoost comes in at just 6.3 seconds, which is pretty impressive, and you have a top speed of 106 miles an hour. Now, as far as fuel economy goes, the 2-door 4-wheel drive Sasquatch gets 17 city and 17 highway. You have a fuel tank capacity of 16.9 gallons. I'm averaging, after a few days of driving, a total of 17.5 miles a gallon. As for drive modes, you're working with normal, eco, sport, and then you have slippery, mud ruts, sand, and rock crawl. All right, let's talk about the exterior design for a little bit. In my opinion, Ford definitely killed it when it came to combining the retro look with the more modern appeal. To me, the Bronco definitely looks better than the Jeep Wrangler, and many of you out there on the internet agree. It just has a more brawny and a tough appearance with a very aggressive stance. And like I mentioned before, you can take off all the doors and the roof and really have an open air experience, and with all those parts off, this thing looks even better. I do want to point out something though. If you're thinking of buying the Bronco and want it to look as tough as the one I have here, you definitely have to add on the Sasquatch package. Because without that, it looks pretty much like a normal SUV. The Sasquatch package gives it a lot of character. Oh, and by the way, if you want that cool looking LED strip that connects into the Bronco logo on the front, you'll have to start building at the outer banks trim or above. Now, before we hop inside, let's check out the cargo capacity. You can pop the trunk by using this handle right here. And once you get it open, you have a total of 23.6 cubic feet behind the second row. And with the second row folded, you're looking at 52.3 cubic feet. So it's not bad. Now let's take a seat inside the new Bronco. And if you're expecting this interior to completely blow you away in terms of quality and luxury, you're going to be a little disappointed. And that's because, like the Wrangler, the Bronco is off-road focused, so they have kept everything in here very basic, so it's easier to clean. Nonetheless, at this price tag, I would have expected some more creature comforts, but it is just pretty basic. I know there's a lot of hype around the Bronco and everyone is excited to see it come back, but make sure you really sit in one and feel around, because you might not like what you're expecting. Honestly, my favorite part about the interior has to be the auxiliary switches. Kind of feels like you're getting ready to take off in a fighter jet. To get into the second row, you just pull this latch right here and the front seat will slide forward, giving you way to get in. And once you get back there, you have 35.7 inches of legroom with the two-door model and 36.3 inches of legroom for the four-door model. Both are pretty good when it comes to rear legroom. Now, before I give you my opinion on whether or not if you should buy the new Bronco, let me point out a few random things that I'll have to show all of you. You have 4 cup holders, 2 in the front for the front passengers, and then rear passengers get a cup holder each on the sides, right down there. Here are what the keys look like to the new Bronco. Nice little Bronco logo on the back. On the front, not too much going on. Lock, unlock, and panic button. Pretty simple. Door open and close sound from the outside and from the inside. Not bad. You can get a wireless charger if you want, but every Bronco comes standard with a USB-A port and a USB-C port for the front passengers, and the rear passengers also get a USB-A port and a USB-C port. And finally, let's do an indicator and horn sound test here on the 2021 Ford Bronco. Indicator first. Same old Ford indicator. Now for the horn sound. Pretty freaking solid. And now that I've given you a tour of the new Bronco, let me give you my opinion on whether or not if you should buy this over the Wrangler. And honestly, I think I've already answered that question. If you're looking for a tough SUV in this price segment that's going to be a solid daily driver, the Bronco is what you should go for. Even if you're gonna go off-roading every few months, and even if that off-roading is of extreme level, I think the Bronco is still your best bet. It's not to say the Jeep Wrangler is bad in any way. In fact, a part of me actually prefers the interior of the Jeep Wrangler, and that could simply be due to the fact that I'm testing a lower trim of the Bronco right here. But both are solid SUVs and both will have a very fun battle in the years to come. But for someone like me that will be doing more on-road driving than off-roading, the Bronco is the one. Either way, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you hit like, make sure you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. My handle is @OmarDrives. And if you're enjoying my content, make sure you share it with your friends. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Peace. All these off-roading SUVs, no matter what anybody says, it's loud in here. I'm sure the higher end trim have some better sound deadening, but this is pretty loud in here. The Wrangler, it's not, I don't notice any difference really.